Would you like an opinion on a financial matter you're dealing with? Whether it's about retirement, investments, taxes, or 401ks, Scott Hansen and Pat McClain would like to help you by answering your call. To join Allworth's Money Matters, call now at 833-99-WORTH. That's 833-99-WORTH.
Welcome to Allworth's Money Matters. I'm Scott Hansen.
I'm Pat McClain.
Glad you are with us as we talk about financial matters. Allworth's Money Matters is, we've been broadcasting here for 26 years. Our goal here is to help you make wise choices with your finances, to have some financial independence, to be at a point where work is an option and not an obligation. And my co-host and I are both practicing financial advisors, meeting with people like you during the week and being here and as your financial advisors on the air, broadcast on the weekend. So,
and on your podcast.
Yeah. So,
we take calls. People ask us questions, and we try to help. So.
We give our opinions
Yes.
that sometimes are taken and sometimes not, but that's fine.
Let's hope.
I mean, the funny thing about financial planning, and as I had a conversation with a gentleman, he was a retired nuclear engineer.
Okay, pretty exacting.
Okay, exactly, right? I mean, it's kind of right up there with rocket science. I mean, there's not a lot of margin of error there. Exacting is probably the correct terminology.
Actually, I had a client that was a rocket scientist, and I would follow up by things I'd say by, this isn't rocket science, and he found no humor in that whatsoever.
Gee, I don't think I ever heard that one before.
That's a good point.
But the conversation I was having, that I said, the thing about financial planning, I said older engineers make pretty good clients. Younger engineers, typically are very challenging to work with. And because when we look at financial planning, it is not an exact science because there's so many moving parts, and it's really about the future, which is unknown. We know something about human behavior, which is what drives businesses, drives investments. But we don't, and we also know that things go through cycles, but we don't know when the cycles start, when the cycles are going to end. We know that politics.
You don't know how big they're going to be or how prolonged, right? Politics.
All those things play a role in financial planning, and so the challenging, particularly those that are more exacting, to use your term, and engineers and stuff. I think one of the challenges when it comes to financial planning is it's not like this is exactly how we do it to have the most sturdy bridge possible. It's like, well, here's a few different ways that we can do it, and these are the probabilities of outcome.
Yes.
And
how was it working with the nuclear scientist?
Nuclear engineer.
A nuclear
I always
engineer.
had a phone call with. I had a conversation with him. So I haven't taken a new client in 15 years, Pat. If you didn't know that, so
I didn't know it was recent.
Oh yeah, no, it was the last week or two.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I had a good conversation, but I have. It's funny because I've been in this. It's the irony of things. As a young person in the industry, I was like, anyone who would like to work with me. I had almost so few clients. Like, I'd love to work with you. And then now we've got 80 or so advisors, 250 employees. Spend a lot of time on a lot of other issues, and just don't. As much as I love the financial planning process, I don't have the luxury of being able to take on new clients. And I have neighbors and stuff reach out to me, and it's like, but we've clearly have a great team of people that.
Yes,
I spend time with the advisors.
Actually, there are some. I mean, really, not only in our firm, but in many firms, really young, smart financial advisors, like 20s, 30s, just really good at what they do.
Was that not you in your 20s and 30s? Yes, it was. Of course.
Yeah, it was probably pretty. Yeah. I guess I was okay.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you took it seriously. You got the education, kept up on things, learned things, knew how to communicate well with people, which is half of it, right?
Yes.
Anyway, I don't know why we're talking about this stuff.
Let's take calls. 833-99-WORTH. That's 833-99-WORTH.
And let's start off here with Woodson. Woodson, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for taking my call today.
Yes.
I am 61 years old. I'll be 62 in November, single with no children. I plan to retire between 65 and 67. I have a total debt of $49,000, which $35,200 is school loan. Yuck. I have a 401k, which has $56,000. 98% allocated for stock, 2% cash. Robinhood account of $2,600. I have a pension that by the time I'm 66, it will be roughly around $67,000.
Wait, one second. Your pension, it will be $67,000 a year in income?
No, $67,000 in total balance by the time I retire.
Okay, and that's your and what did you say your IRA 401k value was?
$56,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and my Robinhood account is $2,600.
Got it.
Okay, social 66 plus 10 will be 2,123.
Okay.
Okay. I've listened to your show so much, I know the question you're going to ask. I'm going to see you all up front.
Thank you. All right, what's the next question we're going to ask?
Okay. I live in ridiculous San Francisco with crazy rent.
Are you in a rent-controlled apartment or do you own a home?
I rent control.
And what is your rent a month?
$1,100.
And what do you make?
I make $68,500 a year.
Okay. What's your question for us?
My question is, should I open up a Roth IRA or should I add money to my 401k as an after-tax? And my reason for asking those questions is that I'm planning to retire and leave California and either move to North Carolina or South Carolina based because of tax. It's more tax friendly there for senior citizens. And my concern is because I'm in the market so late, between fees from withdrawals from the 401k and taxes, I feel I'm going to be really, really eaten up. And when I get, yes.
What did you say your debt was $49,000? What do you owe money on?
School loan.
How much of that is school loans?
$35,200.
And how long have you owed on these school loans?
Maybe like 10 years. I went through a major, I got unemployed long time ago, couldn't find work, so I decided to go get an advanced degree. Mm-hmm. Big mistake. Because the industry I got the advanced degree in went out of business, basically.
So did you try to get these school loans abated or reduced, or have you worked on that at all?
I've not worked on that because I believe these school loans are private.
Okay. All right. Good enough. And so
you can't, there's no relief.
Well, you should most certainly be saving more for a retirement.
But I would do it on a pre-tax basis.
That's right. So I would use the Roth.
And the reason I state that is the way the tax rates work, they're progressive. So if your income's very low, you actually all pay no income taxes because you've got standard deduction. Then the rates, we're in a 12% bracket when if you're single and your taxable income is roughly $10,000 to $40,000, you're in a 12% federal tax bracket. Then it jumps from 12% to 22% from $40,000 to $86,000, which is the tax bracket you're smack in the middle of. So if you contribute on a pre-tax basis, number one, you're taking a tax deduction on federal taxes, being in a relatively high tax bracket, and as well as taking a tax deduction in California. You'll avoid the California taxes. And then when you move to whether it's North Carolina or South Carolina, both those states have lower tax rates than California, and presumably, a good portion of your retirement income is going to come from Social Security because you don't have a lot of other savings, and what you've got saved for retirement and your 401k and whatnot, it's going to have to be your withdrawals are not going to be that substantial because it's going to have to be designed to last your dying day.
So here's how I would think about it. One, I wouldn't be. First of all, I think you should probably set a realistic retirement date at age 70 if you're in good health, not 67. I don't know if I would actually make the decision whether to move out of a rent-controlled apartment in the San Francisco Bay Area versus buying a
But
home.
everything's so expensive too.
That's what.
I mean,
So I was.
utilities.
So that's why I was going through my mind. So if you
Gasoline.
were going to move someplace, let's say you were 70 the day you retired, I would probably look at buying a small place to live, and using a reverse mortgage and a Roth distribution in order to purchase that.
Well, then if it's going to be, then that negates what I just said about the taking a tax deduction on a pre-tax basis. So your thought, Pat, is to have money saved, not necessarily for retirement, but have money saved
For the purchase of a home, and maybe you split the difference. You don't have to do all Roth or all pre-tax. I'd probably split the difference, and I would go out to age 70. So think about this, Scott. I would go out to age 70 and say, how much money should I actually have set aside to purchase a home, a modest home in, North Carolina? What is that? 200,000? We're talking about 8 years in the future. And then,
Well, I can say that in the Raleigh-Durham area, homes they've gone up quite a bit,
Yeah.
in the 300 and 400.
I understand, but you may not be moving to the Raleigh-Durham area.
Well, that's true, but that's where my family is.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that are the suburbs, way out in the suburbs. Just, I have family all over there.
Okay.
And the second option
I
was
do.
South Carolina.
I do
because
like the concept that Pat's coming up with. So if you don't want to stay in San Francisco with the rent-controlled apartment, which might be your best housing option,
I wouldn't rule it out.
but it doesn't accomplish what you'd like to accomplish, which is being near family. I mean, it's a big right.
Exactly.
So that's
a big concern. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
As I'm
and I
getting
appreciate
older,
that.
I'm
I mean, that's
single,
what life's about: relationships.
Right.
Right.
Nobody's going to take care of me in San
I'd rather live in a shack with people I love than a mansion by myself. That's like life's about relationships.
How long?
Can we have a little bit of both?
Yeah, a little bit of that's ideal.
So
come over on the weekends only.
So when I'm going through this, I'm going to agree with you, but let's move off the tax a little bit and think about the design of the money and the withdrawal. And the best hedge.
Is there a family member you would maybe share a house with or something?
I think if I were to move to the Carolinas, probably for the first year, I have a family friend who has a huge home, and she's in her 70s, and she just might need some help. But I really would like to have my own space because I've had my own space for 40 years here.
I'd split the difference.
I would agree with Pat.
I'd put half Roth.
And then
half
the reason is that way, if we're looking at getting a house at some point in time, there's cash to draw upon without any taxes. Because those tax rates I just looked at being progressive, it's all based upon the calendar year. And if you take a big withdrawal from a taxable 401k, it's just like you earned high income that year and you get taxed at those higher rates. So we wouldn't want to have all of your money sitting in a 401k But Pat, I like the concept of saving for you buying a house using a reverse mortgage.
Yeah, and that way you don't have any payments, and you'd be able to live comfortably on just your Social Security.
If you didn't have a house payment.
If you didn't have a house payment.
Okay, so you're saying you're considering you're suggesting, I should say, to do as I thought of as a Roth IRA.
But you can do it in your 401k.
401k.
You could do it in your 401k. So I'd put the maximum amount that they could allow me into the 401k. I'd direct half of it into the Roth side and half of it into the pre-tax side.
You're splitting the difference.
And
And then
split
also
the
you've got a chunk of money that's accessible to you when you go to
retire. That's how I would do it.
My next last question. I know you're going to be busy. Once I make the withdrawal from either of those accounts, aren't there fees associated with that?
No.
Not on the Roth, but there are there's taxable amount coming on the pre-tax side.
There's no fees.
But there's no fees.
Okay.
I mean, unless you invest it in some weird product or something, but
well, it's in Fidelity. So I thought once it comes out, there was fees associated.
No.
No.
I mean, unless you have some strange 401k plan that.
No, I'm not that smart.
Yeah, no, yeah. And then, so that's how I would do it. Or alternatively, just marry money.
Yeah.
Alrighty?
We'll leave it at that.
Appreciate the call.
Yeah, thanks. 833-99-WORTH is the number to be part of our program. Let's go to Missouri and talk with Matthew. Matthew with Allworth's Money Matters.
Yes. Hello.
Hi, Matthew.
Hello. How are you doing?
We're good.
What can we do for you?
Good. Well, I am buying a house, and I was wondering so I have to get a loan for it, and I'm wondering if I should pay a little. I'm wanting to pay it off early, so I'm wondering if I should pay a little bit every month extra, or if I should just wait a few years and have one lump sum that I pay.
It depends, right?
Okay.
So it's always nice to pay off debt early, but the question is at what sacrifice? So what would that money be going to if it wasn't going towards the debt? So how old are you?
31.
And what's the size of the debt?
$182,000.
And the interest rate is a current interest rate, so it's probably around 2.5%, 3%.
3%. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you married?
No, single.
And do you have a 401k at your employment?
No, I don't.
And
well, actually, so I'm starting a new job next week. So I don't actually know what kind of benefits they have yet.
Is your pay comparable to what your pay is today?
Sorry, what was that?
Your salary, your pay, is it going to be about the same as what your previous employer?
Well, so right now I own a business, and I made about $65,000 last year, and I don't know how much I'm going to be making. It's going to be between $30,000 and $60,000.
Okay, you answered the question. How much money do you have in savings?
$20,000.
Okay, I wouldn't worry about anything right now. I would just keep the mortgage exactly where it was. I'd stabilize myself. I'd get a little bit more money in savings. I'd start putting money into my 401k or IRA or both. And once I was maxed on my 401k and my IRA, then and only then would I come
I would agree
back
with Pat
and decide whether I wanted to
because and part of it, you're 31. The money is so cheap. You never hear saying this to people at 61 or 51 even, right? But you've got so much time ahead of you, and I'd rather see you put those dollars into something that's going to grow for you over a period of time.
Okay.
As opposed to a 3% loan.
So what you want to do is you want to put the maximum you can into your 401k at your new employer, and then you want to fund an IRA, and you want to go 100% stock in it. 100% mutual funds or ETF stocks, allocation 100% stocks, and it's going to go up and down. And maybe a year from now or 3 years from now, you're going to go, what did that McLean and Hanson tell me? They're idiots. You're not worried about that. You're worried what the account balance is going to be 30 years from now. That's all you're worried about. And you put the maximum that you're allowed every year until then. I got to tell you, my wife and I yesterday were looking at our 401k statement. I've been depositing money in there since I was 24 years of age. And every year, I will put the maximum that I possibly can based upon what my employer and my income allows me. And I've gone 100% equities the whole time. It's mind-boggling how this stuff complies.
How much money? Yeah,
it really is.
It just compounds.
It just compounds and compounds and compounds.
Not every year.
Some years it's terrible. Some years you're like, what am I doing here? But you just keep it the same way. Once you get the basics down, once you put in the maximum, get $20,000, $30,000 in the bank, get comfortable, don't go buy yourself a new truck or anything like that. Then revisit whether you should start paying down the mortgage. My guess is that interest rates will rise to the point of someplace around 3 or 4 or 5, whatever the number is on mortgages, and you should not pay it down. But I wouldn't worry about it for 5 years. I'd do all that other stuff first, and then I'd start worrying about that. All righty?
Gotcha.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Good luck, Matthew.
Congratulations on
thank
the
you.
new house.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting, young man.
Yeah. Welcome to the
So,
Home Depot.
I do take one exception. You said don't be buying a new truck. The only reason I say that, a buddy of mine bought a used truck within the last year.
Mm-hmm.
And he's had a couple problems with it, 60,000 miles, whatever. He says he can sell it for not that much less than a new truck. So he's selling his used truck.
Oh.
He's never bought a new car in his entire life. He's almost 60 years old. He's never bought a new car. But the way the market is just so strange right now. I mean, and we probably have all read some articles or seen some news stories or whatever. Like my wife's car is kind of at the point maybe it's about time to think about replacing it. And I said, babe, now is not a time to be buying any sort of vehicles. The dealerships, they don't have much inventory, so you're not going to get there's no haggling. I had a buddy of mine bought a minivan. He had $3,000 over sticker price.
On a minivan.
Minivan.
You got to feel pretty. First of all, it's hard enough to drive a minivan. To pay over sticker, I drove minivans for years. I don't.
What is it about minivan? Let me finish it. But and then the used car market's crazy. There's just not enough.
I thought that the new car, so the used car market prices have accelerated. The increase has been greater than
out of new cars.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
So it actually may not be if you need a new vehicle.
Matthew, you're 31. Try not to replace a vehicle. Run it until it dies. You're always better off.
Yes, and don't buy like a used big Mercedes.
Yeah.
It's cheap because those are going to cost you a fortune to maintain. Yeah. So something that's not going to cost you a fortune to maintain as well, I think is kind of a
over time.
But we joked about the minivan, and I rode in his new minivan.
Is it nice?
It's a minivan. It is a nice minivan.
Yeah,
but it's actually pretty comfortable getting in. It's easy to get in and out of, and it actually drives pretty well. But I don't know what it is about minivans.
I have this.
They say. I mean, I was reading an article. They're making a comeback because everyone's went to the SUVs. Like every other car on the road now looks like it's an SUV of some sort. Small SUVs, big SUVs, medium-sized SUVs. But now I guess the minivans come back in style.
I just have this thought of a minivan. So I have 4 children. Just give you between the ages of 20 and 25. So when the youngest was like 2 or 3 and the oldest was like 5 or 6, I was driving out of our neighborhood.
There were how many years with?
There were 4 kids in 5 years.
That's amazing.
So I'm driving the minivan.
Irish twins.
I'm driving the minivan out of the neighborhood. It's pouring rain. I just remember this. And I had the minivan doors. You'd hit the button in the front, and they'd open and shut on.
Oh, a fancy minivan. Yeah, now you're showing off.
So we had 2 border collies, beautiful dogs. Manny, Kaylee, love these border collies. We had 2 border collies, and we're driving through the neighborhood, and there's construction going on, and there it is pouring rain, and we see this border collie out there, and one of my kids yells, "Dad, the dog's loose!" So I pull up there, and I hit the button, open the door, and I yell, "Come on in, Manny." This border collie jumps in my car, covered in mud. You know when this is going to end?
I know it.
We drive home. And the kids are like, "How did the dog get loose?" I'm like, "I don't know how the dogs got loose, but the dog got loose." And I open the garage door, hit the button,
and here come both your dogs.
Both my dogs come running out. That is my the use of it was the button opening the door on the minivan automatically.
And had you had a normal car, you would have had to actually stop the car, get out, and inspect the dog, and realize that dog, in fact, was not yours.
Yes, and then the kids, they were pretty upset because we drove back to where I picked the dog up from. Sorry, I opened the door.
What are you gonna? Oh, you just let it back in the neighborhood?
Yeah, and I just pushed it out.
Well, he'll find his way home.
Well, it's a dog. It's a border collie. It's pretty smart.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Huh?
I thank you for listening to my story. But that's my whole. Every time someone mentions a minivan, it just clicks.
And
in my
it sounds
head.
like you're still a little bit of guilt of just letting that dog back to.
My children. I said, well, it might be one of the construction workers' dogs, and if we take it, then
And it had no tag on it.
nothing. So I don't know what I was supposed to do. I mean, I'm not
You had little kids in the car.
Well, am I making myself sound heartless?
I think 90% of our listeners will feel fine about it, but there might be a couple that are having a hard time.
If it happened to me, today,
yeah. You'd stop everything to make sure you found the rightful owner. I get it.
I was afraid it was one of the construction workers' dogs. I had never seen the dog in the neighborhood before. I'm sure the dog was fine.
We got to take a break here. But my wife found some. There was some stray dog in our neighborhood, 4 or 5 weeks ago, and so we have this little courtyard in front of our house with it has a small wall. So she brought the dog in, had a tag, called the owner. The owner drives over, but by the time the owner got there, the dog figured out how to jump over the wall.
Oh, no.
She found the dog, but it's if you're going to, my wife felt
tried.
a little bad.
Did she?
She thought she had the dog, but the dog.
You tried.
Anyway, hey, we're going to take a break here in a second, but I want to let you know we've got, we did a series of workshops on Social Security recently, but we've got an online, it's an on-demand virtual workshop on 5 steps to managing Social Security. So if you go on our retirement resources section at allworthfinancial.com, you'll find that. Again, it's at retirement resources section at allworthfinancial.com. We're taking a quick break. This is Allworth's Money Matters.
Can't get enough of Allworth's Money Matters? Visit allworthfinancial.com/radio to listen to the Money Matters podcast.
Welcome back to Allworth's Money Matters. Scott Hansen here.
Pat McLean.
Glad you're still listening to our program. At least we assume you are still listening to our program.
Yes. I am listening to the program. I am listening to the program.
You are participating in the program and listening at the same time.
I was working in the garden last week, and
Is this harvest time? I did not plant a garden this year.
It was harvest time, but a deer got in my yard. That one lucky deer. It just had a heyday. It was, I don't know how long it was in there, but it was, anyway. What it didn't eat, it trampled.
Okay, so we finished our last segment talking about your minivan experience. Now we're talking about your garden. How about we'll go back to the calls here?
We're going to relive my youth.
Let's go to Pennsylvania and talk with Jay. Jay, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Jay.
How's it going?
We are great.
What could we do for you?
Well, my mom called in with a question, I guess, about mortgages and renting a current property and using the income from that sort of as passive income to support a new home.
Okay.
So my wife doesn't seem to like the idea.
How about this?
For whatever reason. It
Tell
feels like it's too much work.
Tell me what it is you're trying. What is that you want to do? I don't remember your mother's conversation and whatever. So
we have a property now that's in a very nice location. It would be a nice starter home for a family, 3-bedroom, 2-car garage, great neighborhood. I don't want to just sell the home because even though we have some principal paid off, I don't feel like it's enough to make a big dent for it to really be worthwhile to just sell. If we were to refinance and rent it, we would have a lot of passive income from the difference between our refinance rate versus our.
How much is so? Are you guys? You're still jumping ahead here. So you're married. You live in a home that you own that has a mortgage on it. You want to sell. You want to move somewhere else,
right?
And you want to possibly keep this as a rental, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And you want to move. Why? Because you want a bigger house? Because you don't like the neighborhood? Because
we're on a half double and we'd like a single home and just a little bit more property.
Okay. What's the value of the home that you're in now?
About 145.
And what do you owe on it?
Just under 100, like 98.
And what's the interest rate?
I want to say 3.17.
Okay. All right.
3.17.
Okay. And you want to move to this new house. The question is, do you keep this as a rental or not as a rental? What would it rent for?
Let's see. I believe we had looked it up and got a quote somewhere in the $1,400 to $1,500 a month range.
How much property is it on?
It's a duplex, half-plex or something, right? And what's a new house?
It's a half double. We're in Steel City.
When you say half double, what's a half double?
Nothing's called
two
half
homes.
doubles on the West Coast. I don't know. What
Yeah, home half and half.
It's like a duplex, right?
No, a half double. Is it a mobile home?
No.
Okay.
It's a standalone home. There's just two sides.
It's a duplex.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Oh, duplex. Is that what they call it? Okay.
And what would a new house cost?
Well, we're still kind of discussing the range, but she's pretty firmly set on houses that are in like 350 and up range.
She's firmly set on that. Okay.
Yeah.
And how would you come up with the down payment on the new house?
Well, we have some money away, and we could come up with some if we were to save and find something that we were serious about. We could probably just save, but it would come out of just basically out of our pockets, out of our own income.
Yeah. How much do you have saved?
We could probably get together 35,000.
Okay. And how old are you?
35.
And what do you have in your 401ks? Are you contributing to a 401k or IRA? So are you saving for retirement?
Yeah, I don't know hers. Mine is in that same area, about 40,000.
And how much do you make?
Well, I just started a new job, so I don't know my yearly right now. But I would say if I were to estimate, it would be somewhere in the 80,000.
What did your old job pay?
55,000.
Oh, good. And does your wife work outside the home?
Yeah, she also just got a new job, and she'll probably be in the 65,000.
And how far away will you be from this rental house? If you
not
convert
more than a half an hour. We're mostly looking to, both of us work in the same area, and we're looking to move only within a half an hour of there. And that's where we're within a half an hour now. So.
And did your wife get a pay increase as well with the new job?
Yeah. She was up. She was probably only like 40,000, I believe.
Okay. So you want to keep the rent that house as a rental, and she doesn't want to.
Yeah.
And our opinion matters.
Is it to her?
What's that? The opinion?
Does our opinion matter to her?
That's a good question. I guess it depends.
I mean, so I'm just, and the reason, like, I've been married 29 years. Pat's been 30 some odd years, and my first glance, I'm like, I'd keep the house.
That's right.
It's 11.5% yield, gross yield. You got some expenses, but I mean, that's a really high rent for $145,000, which I scratch my head when I look at people buy rentals in these hot markets across the United States, where you'll spend $300,000 on a place that'll rent for $1,400. Where you can in Pennsylvania, you pay half that. So, I think over the long term, if you can keep this thing as a rental and have this thing paid off by the time you're retired, I think it would do well for the both of you.
That was sort of my plan, was sort of the long-term thinking.
Okay.
Yes.
But then I'm thinking,
giving up on the house.
What happens if it's 8 months from now and something goes south on the house, something's broken, you need some additional money. It's a Saturday you're supposed to go visit her parents, and instead you got to go work on the repairs or whatever. I mean, just things that come up. And then, so I would be, if I were in your shoes, I'd be asking myself, like, how badly does my wife not want to do this? And I'd have some real good conversation with her about that.
Yeah.
Because they do take a little bit of work.
Yeah, and they do sometimes actually run negative. So if the place stays empty for 6 months,
you just need to have a little set aside. But I would keep the thing. From a financial standpoint, it would be hard to say to make sense of
One of the factors in her decision is her brother had a friend who bought rental property, but he bought low-income properties and then had a really hard time with them.
Okay.
And that shaped some of her view of like, well, rental properties are nothing but a headache.
Listen,
you won't make any
I had a friend that was in an auto accident, and I still drive.
Okay. Well, yeah, true.
There are people have bad experiences and people have good experiences. It sounds like you obviously know the house because you're living in it, right?
Right. So you know what's right. Yeah. How old is the home?
Let's see. Boy, I'm going to say...
it's got to be old. I'm
50s,
guessing...
60s.
There's probably not a lot of new
60s.
subdivisions being built where he's at.
No, not over here.
Yeah. So someone that you know, or someone that knows someone that knew someone that had a bad experience with rental. Tell me about how the corporations now own 2% of all rental homes in the United States. The stock of rental homes are owned by large corporations.
2%?
2% versus 10 years ago, the number was 0. It was 0. If you can manage it, right? You're 35 years of age. Over the next 30 years, it will serve you well if you can manage for it.
I totally agree.
Now, if she was adamant, would I bet my marriage on it?
No way.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
she's coming around. Just small backstory on me. I'm very handy. I've spent most of my life in construction, and then now I'm in industrial mechanics. So a lot.
Well, it makes
of
even
stuff
more sense for
around
you then.
houses.
He's in what?
Right.
Well, he's got a back. He's handy. He's got a background in construction.
Oh, yeah. So,
I clearly do not, and so it's a different thing for me.
So you'll get the podcast and play it for her. If you think it helps. If you don't think it'll help, don't. All right.
Well, it would be good. She keeps saying she talks to people, quote unquote, or they, quote unquote.
Look,
and I don't really know who they
the
are.
The numbers drive decision making. We're financial guys. And so you asked us about the numbers, and these numbers are good.
If in fact you can get $1,400 a month, this is a great rental.
Yeah,
and the place doesn't need suddenly $20 grand to repair.
It's a low interest rate because it was bought on a
locked
primary.
in. It's a fixed rate, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Appreciate the call.
And by the way, if there's ever inflation, it's just even better. I mean, like, if I were in your situation, I'd keep it. That's
all right.
All right.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate the call. And it's funny how life is sometimes. And it's a little challenge with, like, got to both be on the same,
Yeah.
Yep. Not that I've had any personal experience with houses that my wife doesn't want, but anyway, that's another story entirely.
I forgot.
Don't ever buy a primary residence for your family when your wife's out of town. That's all. I'm going to leave it at that.
I forgot about that.
Oh, I did not. Fortunately, she doesn't rub it in, but
She does.
then neither do I.
Oh,
other
because
direction.
you wanted it.
Anyway.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
It's correct. It doesn't really matter. 833-99-WORTH is the number. Let's talk with Mary. Mary, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hello.
Well, hello.
I have a question for you on annuities, one of your favorite topics.
All righty.
Actually, I based on having heard you before, I know they're not all created equal, but I had this. We have this shiny new plan that's being offered. It just came out this week, and I listened to a webinar on it. And I worked for the UC system.
Okay.
So this is coming out for the entire UC system in California. So they're telling us that it's not like any other annuities, and this is a good one. And I wanted to at least look at it in all ways to, see if it's something I should look at.
Okay.
So,
and are you retired from the UC system?
I am. I'm retired from UC Davis.
Okay.
I'm on a half pension, kind of, because I only worked for 10 years there, or an cumulative full-time amount of 10 years. So, but I'm eligible for this.
It's funny because the fact that you got that your pension's not that large compared to someone who'd worked their entire career. My first thought is like, why in the world would someone with a great pension need an annuity as well? But
yeah, so the answer to the question next, you receive a monthly pension from the University of California system. What is that amount?
The amount is gross is $2,500 a month.
Okay, all right.
I have $425,000 in 403B, which is like a 401k.
Yep.
I actually, up until quite recently, was taking $1,500 to $2,000 a month out of that to help expenses.
Yep.
But we recently sold our house, and we have a pocket of cash. We split it between my husband and I, and we each got like $344,000 from that. So I have.
And where are you living?
We're living at our son's rental place, and the way it turned out, I actually called you earlier in the year, last year, and asked. They wanted to sell. They wanted to fix the house up and sell it, and it turned out that my son's rental place became available, and they said, "Well, hop over into that. We can stage your place, sell it. It's a great time to sell. We'll give you." He gave us a really good deal on
your son, of course.
renting his place.
So is the plan to be in that rental long term? Like and the reason I'm going down this path is because that's kind of like the biggest expense we have.
But I'm confused that you said that there was a pot between you and your husband that you split. Did you say split?
Yeah, we keep our money separately, and I don't really want to go into
No. I just wanted to understand whether you were separated or not. But you are together.
No.
Your money has been separated.
Yes, we're together. Our money is separated. I have money, and he has.
That's fine.
We see it all kinds.
Yeah. No judgment.
Well, it's kind of why we had to sell the place, because he needed to get his money out of it. So that was part of it, and the deck was going to fall off, and it needed. It was 30 years old. It hadn't, it needed a lot. So we feel good about having sold the place. As far as long term here, we thought it might be a year or two. We don't have a set plan on where we want to go. Our boys are buying properties and fixing them and doing really well. And their kind of dream is to have like a compound, and we might have a small place on some divided acreage or something. And boy, I just think that'd be really fun. But at this time, I think we may be staying in California, and that's fine by me.
Are you spending the money? Are you spending the money, the proceeds from the sale of the home?
Well, we're part of what we're doing with them. We've already lent it to them once. We put it in Marcus Bank, so we each get, we get 0.5% on it, which isn't much, but it's better than 0.02 at our regular bank. And when we lend it out for them, they give us 4%.
Okay.
So we keep it liquid.
All right, this is very common. Let's go back to the annuity.
I know,
okay.
Right. This is totally non-traditional.
Yes, yeah. You're spinning plates over there. Okay, so tell us about the annuity. And by the way, you own an annuity now.
Annuity is just a series of payments by its nature. There's different flavors of annuities now that the insurance industry has created.
But you are receiving an annuity now because of that $2,500 a month could be characterized as a life annuity.
And do you have Social Security?
Oh, okay. I'm going to have Social Security when I turn 70 in a little over a year. Right now, I am getting it off my husband's because I was old enough to qualify for the one half of his if he was 66. So I get about $1,200 a month Social Security. Once I turn 70, I'll get $3,200 a month.
Right. So then you'll have two annuities.
We're so rich that they'll. Oh, that's an annuity also?
Yes.
What?
It can be characterized as an annuity, as a stream of payments designed to last until your dying day or a period of time. That is an annuity.
Okay.
So tell us about the annuity this marvelous annuity that they are offering. And by the way, sometimes, very, very, very rarely, we will recommend an annuity. If it's a fixed annuity, I don't know for what reason I would purchase a fixed annuity in this interest rate environment.
Mary, the reason you're seeing this through the UC system, and other people will start seeing it through their employer, is there was a change in tax law a few years ago that allowed, how many years ago was that now?
Two or three.
Yeah, it allowed employers to offer insurance products, annuities, inside the 401k, I think up to 25% of a plan's balance. So
up to
someone at the UC system figured out, worked with an insurance company, now here's some product. But it's probably a better deal than you'd get like in the open marketplace because there's not an agent involved that's getting a big commission on.
So tell us about the annuity.
Yes. Okay. It's with Well, it's
What's
with
the rate on it? I mean,
MetLife.
what's the
Okay, it's with MetLife, and how's it work?
It's, well, the sample that they gave me, which is the amount that I could do, or reasonably, I thought was $100,000 purchase. I start getting payments when I turn 78.
Mm-hmm.
And until then, they just have my money.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's protected, they're saying, against the volatility of the market,
Okay.
which means, I take it out of where it's been getting, really pretty good rate on my investments, that I'm with, like a plan, a stock.
Yeah.
And
Let me
that.
ask you this.
S&P 500.
At age 70, when your Social Security has a $2,000 a month increase, your monthly income will be $5,700. How much additional monthly income will you need at that point to maintain your lifestyle?
Well, I'm paying all the expenses, so I was comfortable with an additional $1,500
Okay.
a month.
So.
And
Okay.
yeah, this would give me, if I put $100,000, I would get a 2% COLA after 1 year. I would get $758 a month. And then, it would go up 2% every year. It just seems strange. It's like, why would I give them that money? And the reasons that they were saying is because, well, then I reduce the amount that I have to be concerned about with the minimum requirement that you have to take.
Oh yeah,
the
that's
required
not
minimum
that's
distribution.
a bad sales argument. Sorry for that one.
That was-
So, Mary, if you called and said, "I have $425,000 to my name, I have no pension, I have no Social Security because something," then I'd say annuity might make a lot of sense for you, because they can work, because we're talking about an immediate annuity. You give up your money, like in this
I'm
case.
sorry, Scott. This is a deferred immediate annuity. So it deferred till age 78 and then starts the distributions at age 78. So it's
Which is even more crazy, but let me just stick with my.
immediate.
Thank you. But you're in a situation where you've got you'll have a year from now $5,700 a month in guaranteed income. Social Security has a cost of living adjustment on it. My guess is the UC pensions also has a guaranteed cost of living. So you are protected on an inflation basis for that. Like, what percentage of retired Americans have that? It's very small, right? So you've got a great fixed annuity, as Pat correctly said, of $5,700 a month. You've got another $400,000 in your retirement. The question is, do you want to give up your control of that in exchange for some additional guaranteed income? If you were my sister, I would say, don't bother. You've got enough guaranteed income. Like, you don't need this product, particularly if you're going to wait 8 years to take an income stream.
And particularly in a low interest rate environment like this. So, by the way, what do you think they do with that money that you give them, that $100,000, in order to pay you the annuity amount? How do you think they invest it?
They probably have really good things to do.
Not really.
Maybe loaning it out to
They're in the same environment we're in.
They live in the same place you live.
They literally. I mean, they loan money out at 3% and all that, just like we're all stuck doing.
They loan money. They participate in the bond markets. That's what they do. What their job is, the annuity is lifetime risk, right? So if you live to be 140, this would be great. If you live to be 81, this will be terrible, right? So what they're doing is based it on your life expectancy, and they don't medically underwrite for your life expectancy. So if you have a shortened life expectancy because of some known pre-existing conditions, this is awful. If you have a larger than expected life expectancy because of some extenuating circumstances, this could be great. But the reality is you've got enough in fixed income already. You have enough in annuities already. There's not a chance in the world that I could make a single argument as to why you should take
a valid
25.
argument. The
All right.
required minimum distribution.
I
is
guess
not
I
a
could
valid
make an argument, but a valid argument. Your portfolio should be allocated 60% equities, 40% bonds. You should worry about required minimum distributions in a couple years. You should not buy an annuity here. If Scott,
You shouldn't worry about requirement
that
because she's not going to take income now anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I looked it over, and after I made some calls and talked to some people, and they claim that there's no commission.
Well, that's
That's
right.
Doesn't mean it's the right thing for you.
Well, but they're
Right.
But look, did the guy come to your house or your place of work?
No, they sent a letter out, and they had a webinar on Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, whether there's a commission or not a commission is
Obviously, the
absolutely-
company wants to sell their
Yeah,
product.
MetLife isn't in this for fun. I mean,
It is Snoopy,
Yeah, but I mean, there's fat in the food chain.
And if you're going to buy an annuity, that would probably be a good place to buy one.
That's right.
But you're like one of the last candidates that I would think an annuity would make sense for.
Okay, that's really good to hear, because I calculated it out that it would be I'd be 89 years old before I would get my $100,000 back.
And that,
anybody that's
that also doesn't you're negating the lost opportunity of your $100,000 between now and then.
Yeah. So you actually have to do a net present value calculation in order to determine what the internal rate of return is, to determine whether it's good buy or not. But the reality is, there's no sense. You don't need it.
And the next time the market goes through a downturn, which it will, and your 403B balance goes down, just remember that the majority of your money is in fixed income. It's that $5,700. You would need a lot of. Think about how much you'd have to put in an annuity. How many hundreds of thousands you'd have to fork over to get guaranteed $5,700 a month in guaranteed income. So you already have a lot in fixed income. It enables your 401k your 403b a chance to grow and to build. And when it goes through the market cycles, ignore it, because you don't have to worry about it because you've got such a huge chunk in guaranteed monthly
The downturn in the market is the cost of excess return versus an annuity.
Yeah, and between now and 89, if history is any guide, you have a much higher probability of having greater returns by having money left in your 403b and equities than put into that. So anyway, appreciate the call, Mary, and we're getting tight on time, unfortunately. But if you'd like to have a question for us sometime, want to join the show, you can also send us a question at questions@moneymatters.com. Again, questions@moneymatters.com. We'll schedule a time for you to call and have your question on the air as well. It's been great being with you. Enjoy the rest of your week. This has been Allworth's Money Matters.
This program has been brought to you by Allworth Financial, a registered investment advisory firm. Any ideas presented during this program are not intended to provide specific financial advice. You should consult your own financial advisor, tax consultant, or estate planning attorney to conduct your own due diligence.